What is going on, people from the tube? Welcome back to another Pancho Things, duck hunting for beginners by a beginner. Today we're going to talk a little bit about limits and how to work with them. Fishing, hunting, they both have one thing in common, and that is daily allowed limits. What this is the number of birds or fish or mammals that you're going to be able to take on a daily basis or in a season basis. For waterfowl, those limits will be dictated by research and studies. What they tell us is how the population is rebounding, what is their breeding habits, what is the species doing, and what the numbers are in overall and in particular areas. Limits will be different in certain states. In the case of California, in Southern California, we can harvest 7 ducks a day. So that's 7 ducks a day, which out of those 7 can be mallard drakes. You can also get 5 mallard drakes and only 2 hens. At any given time, you cannot shoot more than 2 mallard hens. If there's other species, you can harvest 7 teal, regardless of the sex, widgeon, gadwall, pintails. Federally, the amount of pintails that you can take a day is 1. That is equally for pretty much every state. Other states have a different limits, and that's due to the population and the breeding grounds of that particular state. Some states have 6 birds limit, some states have 6 bird plus a pintail. It's just gonna depend of where you are. So that's why it's important to understand and learn the regulations when you get a hunting license for a particular area or a particular state, to know the regulations. So we already discussed what the limit is. The limit is just the amount of birds that you can harvest in a day. You will hear possession bag. The possession bag in certain areas, in certain states, the possession bag, what they refer to is if you go hunting for a weekend and you're going home after the weekend that you hunt. Let's say that you are hunting Southern California during a weekend, so it'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's 7 birds a day. Let's say that you limit out on all 3 days. You cannot have, your possession bag cannot be more than 7 for Friday, 7 for Saturday, 7 for Sunday. You cannot have more than that. Once again, in Southern California, daily you can only have 7, which out of those 7s, only 1 can be a pintail. 7 mallards. If you shoot hens mallards, you cannot have more than 2 hens mallards. Everything else is fair game as for your 7 birds. In other states, that number might be 6 or something different. It's just gonna depend on what the regulations are for your particular state. That being said, on this video right here, I shot a limit. Now, earlier that day, I lost 2 birds. One was, I shot the bird and he got in some reeds, and the other one, I left the bird on Commodore's mouth. I was putting my empty shells in the bucket to throw them away at the end of the day, and Commodore released the bird and the bird dived down. Now, somebody asked me and mentioned, you do not count your birds that you lose as part of your limits. And the answer to that is yes, I do. Actually, if you go to the videos on the 2nd season, and even a couple of them in the 3rd season, and even I think there's 1 or 2 on this last season that just ended, you will hear me say, it's a hard limit. I had a limit on my heart. Meaning, lost a bird, and I contabilize that bird towards my limit. Even though I don't have it in my possession, is part of my limit of the birds that I'm allowed to shoot daily. So if you go to some of those, on some of my older videos, you will hear me say that. Be like, hey, 6 birds is a hard limit because I shot that one and I lost. Now, what happened with this particular video when that person made that comment? Which was kind of interesting. They made that comment because it gave me the opportunity to explain this to you guys. So, what ended up happening that day, I hunt pretty much all day. My batteries were drained out. I only had 40 seconds or 50 seconds left on my memory card for filming for the day. So I had to be really conservative on when to turn on and off the GoPro and what to film and what not. So we lost those two birds, and we got into those reeds several times trying to look for these birds, and I couldn't find them. And the first one, this happened off camera, but I mentioned that at the end of the video. I'm sitting there and I can hear him in the reeds, and I'm like, okay, he's still there, he's in the reeds. Now, I'm not close to limit out. I'm still 2 or 3 birds away from limit. So I got close to the edge of the reeds, and I can see the bird just literally gets under the water through the reeds and then pops in front of me and flies away. So that bird didn't die, didn't get injured enough to die somewhere. He just literally took off and left. As for the second one, there was a point that I was sitting in there, and once again, I wish I would have not run down all my batteries, because that would have been actually an insane footage for you guys to see, because it scared the living bejesus out of me. I'm sitting, as I'm trying to open some space with my boot so I didn't sink. Because what was happening is that after a certain period of time, my boots will sink in, and if I had to stand up to take a shot, I will have no balance. So as I'm moving my boot in between my two boots, so I got my 2 boots almost like in a straightforward position. Initially I thought that it was a fish. I see something surface and immediately go down, and it was the dog that Commodore released. And I saw him, and I'm like, oh. I said, it was so fast that I had no chance to react. By the time that I realized exactly what it is, it's not a fish, it's actually that dog. The dog swam around the reeds, and I can see him elevate and take off. In a way, it was kind of interesting to see that had never happened to me. Similar things has happened in the past. I'm gonna go over that in a little bit. But that particular instance where a bird just literally comes from between your boots, literally right there, and a bird that you assumed lost and gone, is interesting because it scared me. And when I realized that was that bird, because I got to see the bird early when I got the bird. I had the bird in my hands twice. I got to see exactly how the bird looked. It was that bird, and it was literally in front of where Commodore dropped. And even that I did all my best effort looking around that area, he must have just find a way to get into the reeds, into the mud, and he got up and he took off. So at that point, I made the decision, and of those birds were healthy and took off right in front of my eyes. I was like, okay, I can shoot my 2 birds since they are alive. I can shoot my 2 birds. So at that point, it puts me on 3 birds. There was a group of birds that came in. I was able to take 1 to the front right and 1 here. That will be my 2 birds that I lost. And then with 40 seconds on my memory card, I shot the last one. That was my last shot of the day, and I harvest the limit. So what I'm trying to say with this story is, if you're shooting and you lose birds, those birds needs to be contabilized as part of your limit. Reason being is, if you are a person that is taking shots that are really far shots, and you're just crippling birds, and you're still trying to amount for a limit, you will shoot 13, 14, 15 birds. And that is past your daily limit. Your daily limit is 7 or 6. If you shoot 13 of them to try to harvest a limit, but you're losing them all, you already went above your limit. You already shot more than 7 or 6 birds. So that's why if you shoot a bird and you lost, and you look for it and you try your hardest to try to find that bird, unfortunately that bird at the end of the day will be countabilized as a limit. In the way that I call them hard limits. If I lose the bird and that was the last bird for me to actually finish my limit, there it goes, time to pack up, go home. I did a limit, but I only have 6 birds in my possession, or whatever case it might be. So hope that this helped, and hope that this helped understanding what the limits are and the rightful way to contabilize your birds when you're hunting. Not because you lost the bird doesn't mean that you can get and shoot another 3 birds and hope to find them all 3. If you lose a bird and the bird is dead and you don't see that bird take off and you don't see that bird leave the area, you don't see that bird got somewhere and unfortunately you have no idea what happened to the bird, you gotta assume that that bird is gonna or either die there or is gonna go somewhere and probably die because it was injured. Now, as I mentioned before, I've been in certain situations where took a little far shot, birds drop. And this happened mostly on the second season that I didn't have Commodore. It was just me retrieving every single dog. And I shot the bird and I can see him drop. I'm like, okay, gotta go retrieve my bird. Head in the water, bird is gone. And by the time that I'm getting close, the bird will like take off and just leave. And that's when I started doing a little bit of research. And yes, there is such a thing as just putting a dog in a catatonic stage, where you hit him, you probably don't have full penetration. Maybe the shot maybe passed through the wind. You didn't kill the bird, but you hit him hard enough that the bird get unconscious. It so happened that if they regain conscious and you don't have him in your possession, that bird can take off. And at that point you ask yourself, well, like, is that a limit? Well, when they're in a catatonic stage and you can see a healthy bird, a bird that is not showing signs, that is crippled, that is gonna fall, that is gonna die somewhere else, I will say, yeah, that bird just left. It will be just like the same scenario if you missed it. Now, if the bird is showing signs that is crippled, that is more likely gonna down somewhere and not recover from the injuries, then that bird needs to be contabilized as your loss, because that bird is gonna die and nobody's gonna harvest it. So that is a dead bird. Unfortunately, that's part of your limit. So I hope that you guys get some good information out of these videos, really short. I hope you guys understand the limits and the reason why they're applied. Limits are applied because we gotta preserve and conservation efforts to make sure that the species of birds that we hunt, in this case ducks, are strong, that their breeding opportunities are strong, that the species can survive in great numbers on their own. If those numbers start decaying, you will bet that there will be changes on the limits or with that particular species, like is happening with the pintail, that we can only shoot one. That could be also applied to other species if the numbers start fluctuating in the negative side. So thank you so very much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell so you can be notified every time that I upload a new video, and I will see you in the next one. Pancho out.